This is Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag, and I'm Lee Feinswag. We're in our 24th year, if you count Sports Monday and Sports 225, and the only way that could happen is, well, it's my show.
My best friend, Lee Feinswag, look at the Christmas.
Sports 225 is brought to you by Breck. And now, me. Well, this Sports 225 is special for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is it comes to you the week that LSU plays Alabama in football, which under any circumstances is a big deal. This year it's the biggest deal in at least 6 years, and as far as regular season battles go, right up there with ever. But it's also big because Cody Worsham is here, and he's been a guest on this show before, but in various capacities. And, you know, for a young man, you've changed jobs a few times.
I've had continuity issues in my past with different jobs of my own volition, though, so that's good.
Well, yeah, well, not bad stuff. But now, as you see right there, it says Cody Worsham, LSUsports.net.
That's correct.
So LSU got with the program what a lot of other athletic programs have done in the country, and they've hired full-time sports writers to write for them.
That is correct. Yeah. I mean, it's media landscape continues to change, but it is something that other athletic departments have done. We want to do it differently. We want to do it better, of course, but I'm excited to be back at LSU.
Yeah, guys, you know, it's not just the big schools, too. Florida, I think, might have been the first one to do it. But, I mean, there's a good friend of mine who used to be in the daily newspaper business who's the sports writer for Lipscomb, which is a small D1 up in Nashville. And so, you know, and on around the country. What was it? What's the school? Washington has the he's got like a fancy writing title, you know, and writes just features and stuff. But in your case, you'll be covering games, writing feature stories, doing this, and then good host, listen to his guests, podcasts.
That's right.
Let's throw out there the first thing.
Let's just do the plug from the get-go.
Yeah.
Starting an LSU basketball podcast, Boot Up, the LSU basketball podcast. We're getting that started the Monday before the first game of the season for the Tigers. And, my official title is digital media reporter, so I'll be doing some stuff in different digital spaces, the podcasting, maybe a little video. So this is a good warm-up for that. But the core of it is storytelling. And being a journalist, coming from a journalism background, that's half the job is storytelling. The other part is reporting. This is obviously much more heavily tilted toward the storytelling, and that's the part that I like the best. So it's a good fit for me. You
are a former editor of Tiger Rag twice. Right. So, you know, you have the history of covering LSU and understanding what that's all about.
Yeah,
but I mean, it goes way deeper than that because of your roots, but, you know.
Yeah, I graduated from LSU. I grew up in Baton Rouge, so I know the university. I know its culture, its history. Tiger Rag was really good for that, too, because Tiger Rag goes back to the 1970s. So I was constantly digging through old articles and learning about stuff that happened before I was born and kind of getting steeped in that culture even more than just growing up here. So it's a good place to come from and a good transition to this position.
Cody Worsham, you can follow him at Cody Worsham, CodyWorsham, and then read his stuff at LSUsports.net, where there are unlimited number of feature stories in the LSU athletic department. I mean, we tend to think of the big four, which is football, basketball, and softball, baseball. Right? Maybe women's basketball give you 5. But there are so many sports and so many athletes from so many different walks of life, you know, which is what makes it so interesting.
Yeah, the challenge is finding time to tell as many stories as possible. You know,
Yeah.
I've already hopped in soccer and did a feature on Alex Thomas.
Well, you already have young kids, so I know you don't sleep, so you might as well just be up writing
No,
anyway.
I don't sleep. So it gives me more hours to work with. You know, I wake up at midnight, change a diaper, and then sit down at the laptop and start doing some stuff. So, but it's good. You know, the challenge is finding the time to tell all the stories that I want to tell. There's so many that I've told already that I've enjoyed. There's so many more that I want to tell, haven't gotten to yet, but we'll get to them. We're just getting started.
You haven't been on the job that long.
No, it started right before football season, the week before football season started.
Right.
So jumped right into the thick of things. That's why I'm looking forward to basketball, because I've had a little time to lay some foundations and get some ideas going, whereas football I just kind of jumped right in and was on the team playing the week after I started the job, so a little bit of a.
But you love your hoops. I mean, you're more of a hoops guy.
Yeah,
you always have been.
Played high school basketball, played college basketball for a couple years, so That's my wheelhouse. That's what I'm really, really excited about. But it's just, regardless of the sport, I keep going back to this. There's just so many good stories to tell. That's the most exciting part.
Before we go, like when we get back from the first break, and we'll talk a lot about LSU football and LSU Alabama, but in the remaining couple of minutes we have here in this segment, so what's been your favorite football story so far that you've written?
Yeah,
because people can go back and reference these at LSU.
Yeah,
Sports
I love to tell the stories that use the sport as sort of a backdrop for the person. So I did a story on Garrett Brumfield, the offensive guard who everyone knows as Bruiser, the big blocking guard for LSU, but he's a really interesting guy. He's got interests that go way beyond football. He's into astrophysics. He's into music, podcasting. He makes music. He has movie scripts that he's written. He's a really, really talented guy. So diving into some of those interests with him, I talked to him for 45 minutes. I could have talked to him for 2 hours. He's just a really fascinating guy. Really, really enjoyed. The sports is one thing, but it should be a vehicle for these student athletes to move forward beyond sports when they finish their playing careers. And so it was fun to dig into some of those interests with him.
I don't even know what astrophysics is.
Relativity, Einstein. He said a lot of things that I just nodded my head and pretended to understand, and I didn't understand it all, but I was able to transcribe them once.
Sir, news from the lottery!
Hey, Joe Martin here. You've seen our commercials over the years, and you may be wondering, what's in it for me? Well, ITI Technical College has been selected by Forbes magazine as a top 32-year college. But even more than that, the reason we do this is you. Our tagline is, for a better life, and we mean that, for you to be able to have the life you've always dreamed about, to do the things for your family you've always dreamed about. And it can begin here, where we are dedicated to your success, because here at ITI, the reason we do it is you.
Hi, I'm the human dislike button. You may recognize me as the guy who enforces rules at Breck Parks. Check out my amazing presentation. Did you know? Motorized vehicles are not allowed in Breck Parks. Sales and solicitation are prohibited without permission from Breck. And my favorite rule, keep Breck Parks clean by placing all trash in trash cans. Come on, you can do this. For more information about these and other Breck rules, please visit breck.org/HDB.
Sir, news from the lottery!
We're back on Sports 225. I'm Lee Feinswag, hanging out with Cody Worsham, the sports writer for LSUsports.net. And of course, LSU plays Alabama this week in football, which even before this year is always a special game, because ever since Nick Saban came to LSU in the 2000s and in essence resurrected the LSU football program and put it at a top level that it's maintained almost continuously since then. And then after his time here, left for the Dolphins, went to Alabama, and then what he's done there is just totally unprecedented. So it makes for this great matchup with a lot of intrigue. So, all right, so as a guy who grew up here and who went to LSU, and now you're batting cleanup for the home team, why are people not over the fact that Saban left here and went to the Dolphins and then went to Alabama?
I don't know. I think it's more and more every year people are getting over that fact. There's always going to be a contingent that, of a certain segment of the fan base that holds it against them. I think it's just the competitive nature. I think it's part of being a sports fan. I think what brings people to sports is being passionate about things, and so they take passionate stances, and some of them tend to stick around a little bit longer than others. But I think for the most part, people have gotten past it. It's been more than 10 years since he was here, almost 15 years since he was here. So in some ways it feels like just yesterday, but in other ways it's ancient history. So I think some people hold on to things a little bit longer than others. For the most part, I think people have moved past it.
He thinks this is going to be a very, very good football game. If nothing else, I think I read the Nick Saban tea leaves pretty good. And by the way, if you didn't see last week's show, what I did for last week's show, and it'll be on YouTube on sports225.com. You can go to our Sports 225 YouTube channel. So what I did was I pulled out. He was on the show a lot from 2000 to 2004 when he was the coach, and I pulled out a lot of clips. But the one thing, so I thought that part was pretty interesting. Anyhow, what I was going to go with that is when he thinks that his team's going to win easily, he's always got a message, and he's all fired up, and he's all, he talks to the camera because he's really talking to his players and to the fans. He's not really talking to who's ever interviewing him. He's always got this thing going. This week, extremely low-key, extremely respectful, because he expects that it's going to be a very, very tough football game for his team. And of course, LSU, I'm sure, feels the same.
It'll definitely be their toughest test so far. I saw a stat the other day that of all the defenses they've played this year, and they've been phenomenal offensively, but of all the defenses they've played, the best one in terms of yards per play was ranked 90th in the country.
Right.
Everyone's 90th or worse, and LSU is not 90th or worse. LSU is much better than that. So it'll be the best defense they've played so far. Conversely, it'll be the best offense LSU's played so far. But it's strength versus strength. It's Tua in this dynamic passing game with all these speedy receivers against an LSU secondary that's got 3 or 4 pros as usual. So it's going to be a fun one. It's always been competitive. The last few years. Last year, LSU outgained Alabama, which is no moral victory, but it was 0-0 going into the fourth quarter a couple of years ago in Baton Rouge. It's always tight, but this LSU team feels a little bit more dynamic. It feels like they've got that winning factor that's hard to put a finger on that past teams maybe lacked, and that's going to be a real challenge for Alabama.
As Bertman would go, Skip Bertman would go, this team's got the mojo. You got that. But because the fact that LSU's got a fantastic defense and is playing at home, I think equalizes a lot of things. But where I was going, circle back around to Saban. So what he's done in a couple of ways, he came to LSU and he brought the program to an incredibly high level, and he handed it off to Les Miles, who was able to sustain that. And Miles did that in his own record-setting fashion before Ed Orgeron took it over. And then what's happened this year is, I think, beyond everyone's expectations and then some. But go back to Saban, who then went to Alabama. He's raised the bar for everyone in the whole country. I mean, not just the SEC. He's set a standard that's almost beyond belief. I mean, you go every year, you go, oh, they can't be good again this year. They can't be the best team in the country again this year. And every year, there they are.
It raises the bar for everybody. Ed Orgeron said it last year. He said it this year. That's the standard in the country, not just in the SEC, in the country. It makes you up your game. It makes you recruit differently. It makes you plan differently. What I like about what LSU has done is by hiring Ed Orgeron, and this drew criticism, but they went a different direction than everyone else, other than Clemson. Everyone else had gone after the young, hot coach, up-and-coming coach, and some worked out, some didn't. Maybe you go after a Saban acolyte. LSU went with Ed Orgeron and decided to invest heavily in coordinators, and I think you're seeing that pay off certainly this year with Dave Aranda on defense, the highest-paid defensive coordinator in the country, probably the best defense in the country, or one of them. And it's just a different approach, and I don't know if that approach is taken if Saban doesn't set the standard that he set. And we'll see how it works out for LSU. So far, so good this year.
I think that Saban and Orgeron have a good mutual like and respect for each other. And the two staffs have got to know each other. There's so many guys who have been there a long time. They have people with Louisiana ties, for example, and they've all been around the league.
Yeah. You know, in years past, it felt like there was more animosity in this matchup. Maybe that's just among the fan bases. But this year, there seems to be a real mutual respect between LSU staff, between Alabama staff. I think they understand that, right now they're the cream of the crop in the SEC West. Alabama's certainly been at the top of that, but LSU's right there and had chances to win. I mean, if you look back at the 12 game, the 14 game, the 16 game, all of those games were ones that LSU could have won in Baton Rouge. They've got to figure out how to get over that hump, and that's the challenge this year. I think it's going to be a tight game. Figuring out how to win on those margins will be important.
Be a busy Saturday. He's Cody Worsham. You can read his stuff at lsusports.net. Follow him at Cody Worsham on Twitter. And you on anything else that they should follow you on? I mean, Instagram.
No, to plug again the LSU basketball podcast.
No, you're not plugging any podcast. We're going to break. He's Cody Worsham. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225.
Most people think the Y is a gym, but to me, it's so much more. It was where I made my first friends. And I got my first A, with help from the After School Enrichment Program. They taught me discipline and gave me confidence. And they do the same thing for millions of kids every day. The Y helped me achieve my goals and be so much more. You can help by giving to the Y.
Best tailgate, brisket.
No, real football y pollo asado.
Hoops and wings. Dude, subs.
Hot dogs.
Chili dog.
No, Dodger dog.
It's gotta be crawfish.
Now you're talking. Burgers.
7-layer dip. Ribs. No contest.
Hummus.
What?
You need a hot grill.
And an ice-cold Coke.
Of course.
Football and Coke. Come on.
It's got to be Coke.
Game day.
Race day.
Calls for Coke. You know it.
Grab yourself a Coke.
It's Tailgate 101.
Hi, I'm the human dislike button. You may recognize me as the rules guy for Breck Parks. Sometimes the rules slip past us, so I put together this amazing presentation. Did you know? Golf practice is only allowed at designated golf facilities. Firearms, explosives, and weapons are not allowed on Breck property. Metal detecting is allowed in some parks, but go to Breck's website to learn more about this and other park rules. For more information, visit breck.org/HDB.
With 11 locations, we have it all at allstarautomotive.com.
I go home, I take out of the computer, I take these segments, go home, and then boom, yeah, whatever. Get you ready for volleyball. Cody Worsham is here with me. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225. We're talking about LSU playing Alabama this week in football, a game of magnanimous proportions. I mean, 1 versus 4, and how many points are you talking about LSU at Florida from it being 1 versus 2,
Yeah, it's a game LSU feels like they should have won. The really tough game. I mean, if it were 1 versus 2 right now, 2 undefeateds, it would feel even more epic than it does right now, but it still has that feel of a special game. I think it's the first time both teams have been ranked in the top 5, maybe since the game of the century. It's gonna be a fun Saturday. It's gonna be a busy Saturday. It's gonna be a good football game.
It's going to be a long Saturday because there are going to be so many people. So LSU's football stadium holds 102,000 people. Usually for a game like this, there's another 40 or 50,000 people who come tailgate and hang out. Some stay and watch the game outside the stadium. The smart ones leave and go somewhere else and watch it. But at that point, when there's 150,000 people on campus, it becomes the 5th largest city in Louisiana for the day, which is kind of a staggering statistic. The downside to that is the traffic leaving. So it's a 7 o'clock kickoff. The game will end at 10:15. And if you think you're going to get home before 1, you're fooling yourself.
Well, the approach that I take is, as a writer, we have to go back in the press box when we're done anyway. So you just get that work done, and by 1 o'clock, the traffic's gone, and it's smooth sailing all the way home.
Exactly. And it's supposed to be a beautiful day to go out and walk around a tailgate, which I have every intention of doing. Only going to the really good tailgates and getting good stuff.
Is there any other kind of tailgate?
Well, there's people with just, like sandwiches and stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't do much tailgating anymore, but it is going to be a beautiful day. The weather's been awesome around Baton Rouge this week.
This is going to be good. So college football playoff rankings came out earlier this week, and to even make it more heightened, LSU has a 3 there. Now, all of that doesn't matter much because it's way early. There's a lot of games to play. If LSU loses this game, let me put it the other way. If Alabama loses the game, Alabama's going to stay in the top 4, probably. If LSU loses the game, then with 2 losses, likely drops down lower, closer to 10th, if not, depending on what happens. But 1 versus 3 in the college football playoff, that's pretty sweet as far as the hype goes for the game.
Yeah, I would be interested to go back and look and see how many times 2 top 4 playoff teams have played each other this early in the playoff rankings. This is the first one released. So, you start playing future scenarios. Yeah, that loss to Florida hurts LSU's chances of if they lose this game, getting back in. But it's happened before when there was a 2-team playoff. When
LSU won
had
a
2
national
losses.
championship with 2 losses.
Won a national championship
Which,
that way.
can I point out one thing?
Sure.
The year that LSU won the national championship with 2 losses, the guy pounding the drum the most for LSU to get in as one of the 2 teams, to just carrying the torch for LSU, was Gary Danielson from CBS, to the point where I was like, are you kidding me? I couldn't believe. And the criticism that LSU fans direct towards Danielson when he's calling a game makes no sense to me whatsoever, because if you just watch those games, is the play-by-play and the analysis sometimes kind of obnoxious, and it's over and over and over again. But I think he's a guy who likes LSU and likes the SEC.
To go into some psychological discussion, they say that
I would like that.
Yeah, they say that for every positive comment you receive, for every positive feedback you receive, it's like 1/100th of the effect of the negative that you receive.
Mm-hmm.
So that, when Gary or any media member is critical of your program, it tends to stick around in the memory a little bit longer than the positive stuff that's said. So I think that's probably the case there. I like Gary. I like his analysis. He's not perfect. I've certainly had my qualms with some of his stuff before, but that's part and parcel of being in the media. And I do remember that. I remember him being very, very pro LSU getting in with those 2 losses. So,
and then after that, the day that I can't remember what the circumstances were. LSU played in the SEC championship game, and then later that day was a couple of things that happened. And I think I have this right. Hawaii beat somebody, which changed a computer ranking for somebody else, and then West Virginia
lost to Pitt,
and and the computers did this, and the voters thought that, and right, but
it was.
Am I in the ballpark?
Yeah, you're in the ballpark. It was a perfect storm of chaos, which is what's really fun about college football every year is that you never know what's going to happen. So regardless of what happens Saturday, it's going to be a good football game. I like the Tigers' chances, but win, lose, or draw, something else is going to happen the rest of the way for either LSU or Alabama, and I would not put it out of the realm of possibility that both these teams end up in the playoff at the end of the year.
It would, considering what we thought it was going to be the case with LSU leading into this season. The prevailing thought was an 8-4 kind of season.
Yeah.
More people said 7-5, and I said privately I thought 6-6 was very realistic looking at the schedule. So to be in this situation is just stunning. All right, we got time for one last segment. When we get back, we'll plug some more LSUsports.net stuff with Cody Worsham. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225.
Sir, news from the lottery!
Well. Looks like someone forgot all neighborhood Breck Parks close at dark.
You want another?
I think they'll pass. Amplified music and sound is prohibited without permission from Breck. No alcoholic beverages on Breck property. Smoking of tobacco products is not allowed. Use of fire is prohibited except in grills. Gotta remember, Breck wants you to have fun, but in the right way. For more info, go to breck.org/HDB.
Hey, Joe Martin here. You've seen our commercials over the years, and you may be wondering, what's in it for me? Well, ITI Technical College has been selected by Forbes magazine as a top 32-year college. But even more than that, the reason we do this is you. Our tagline is, for a better life. And we mean that, for you to be able to have the life you've always dreamed about, to do the things for your family you've always dreamed about. And it can begin here, where we are dedicated to your success, because here at ITI, the reason we do it is you. Hey, Joe Martin here. You've seen our commercials over the years, and you may be wondering, what's in it for me? Well, ITI Technical College has been selected by Forbes magazine as a top 32-year college. But even more than that, the reason we do this is you. Our tagline is, for a better life. And we mean that, for you to be able to have the life you've always dreamed about, to do the things for your family you've always dreamed about. And it can begin here, where we are dedicated to your success, because here at ITI, the reason we do it is you.
Sir, news from the lottery!
All right, we're coming down the home stretch of another Sports 225. Thanks to John Williams from Think JCW for directing the show. Go to sports225.com to watch archived Sports 225s on the Sports 225 YouTube channel, including the one from last week that I talked about with all the Nick Saban stuff. Also to find all the show times for when we're on Cox Sports Television, CST, and on Cox 4, which is your view. Cody Worsham is here. He writes for LSUsports.net, among other things, digital stuff. So he writes, he talks, he does whatever. Got a basketball podcast coming up. There you go. We're
nice
done with
plug.
that.
There you go.
All right. So I'm on the other day. I do this weekly gig with Matt Moscona where mostly we talk about beer. God, I got some good beer in Houston. Went to this place called the Eighth Wonder, which is on the other side of the convention center in 59 in this really cool area. Really neat place. I would recommend it. Good beers, great vibe, whatever. Anyhow, that's it there. So he had mentioned this, and I agree, because this game has different circumstances, and Devin White is out for the first half. Normally, if you win the toss, you defer, which I never understood. I still think you should take the ball because the idea is to score points.
Yeah.
But in this case, I maintain that LSU, if it wins the toss, should take the ball and then do everything it can to have a sustained drive. Simply think about 3 first downs. You don't have to go deep. I mean, if it's there, you take it. But try to chew up some clock, keep LSU's defense off the field, and establish that they're open for business. That's my theory.
It's a smart strategy. I've heard it. I have a feeling that with this coaching staff, they're going to come out pretty aggressive, regardless of what side of the ball it is. That's just my hunch. It's the way they've coached all year. But there's some intelligence to thinking about keeping Tua and that offense off the field as much as possible until you get to full strength. But I also think there's a lot of confidence with the guys that are going to step up. Jacob Phillips, whether it's Micah Baskerville or Patrick Queen in that role. They're not Devin White. Nobody is. But they're good football players. And then on the back end, you've got Grant Delpit, you've got Greedy Williams, you've got guys who can make plays. So I see the sense in that. I have a feeling that they're going to come out aggressive, though, and try to set a tone, if for nothing else, within that locker room. Hey, it doesn't matter if it's Devin White out. It doesn't matter who's out. We're going to step up, and we're going to come out aggressive and play to win the football game.
No, I think that's a smart way to go. I just, from a strategy viewpoint.
There's smart strategy.
Has anybody asked Devin White what he thinks about that play? Has he been able to comment about it or been made available? And hey, Devin, could you have just veered off or maybe put your hands out?
No, he hadn't done any media since then. So we'll see. It's one of those calls that I think a lot of people see could have gone the other way. Very, very unfortunate for Devin, but there's only one thing you can do at this point, and that's deal with it and move on. And as Coach O says, next man up.
First time the show appears is Friday morning on CST. By then, you'll have had a couple of stories in there. So give us a couple, really quickly what they should look for at LSUsports.net.
Yeah, I actually got a feature, speaking on smart athletes. Skylar Mays, a pre-med PhD student. I got a feature on him coming out for the LSU basketball team.
Give me a football thing, will you?
Football, it's LSU Alabama week, so there'll be plenty. Coach O talks to the media on Thursday night. We'll have a write-up ready to go on Friday morning, and it's going to be a big week for the football team.
All right, he's Cody Worsham. I appreciate him coming on. Read his stuff at LSUsports.net. Follow him at Cody Worsham. You can follow me at Lee Feinswag. As I always say, why? But every once in a while, I guess I put something profound on Twitter and or Facebook. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, enjoyed it. Thanks.
Okay. Hey, thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching. This has been Sports 225.
At carnival time by Baton Rouge Bay, that's the site of my story. At Spanish Town Mardi Gras, things can get blurry. See the mowers marching, prizes